Don't even worry about
sorry,
Audacity, Muss, because Matt always just, no matter how bad the recording is, he just insists on using the Zoom.
Oh, come on. It hasn't been that bad recently.
That's basically fine.
Yeah. Okay. Do a thing.
In the year 1998, everything else was just a toy.
Oh, today we'll talk about the smallest soldiers of all.
Actually, that?
I don't know. It just was rambling through my head as I woke up. That and a Bangles song for some reason.
I literally just woke up from a dream about our guest we're going to have on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was guesting on his podcast, but I was trying to blag it without having read the comic.
This one's almost along those lines where you were like, oh, you need to come in like the parent that was dragged off to see this movie. I think my age range puts me pretty much almost there for this one too. Though I did note in America it was actually rated PG-13 because they dosed the parents with drugs. And that caused a big controversy because Burger King was selling or putting small soldier toys in their Happy Meals or whatever. So it was like controversial.
Didn't they have the same thing with one of the Batmans where it was like rated R, but Burger King was doing toys?
Maybe one of the Nolan ones. I don't know.
No, I thought it was one of the Burtons.
Oh, when the Burtons were never, they were always PG-13 again. That little weird intermediary, but it could have been the same thing. Hi, this is Matt.
This is Luke.
This is a sci-fi sanctuary. You're here in it, stuck
Today,
in it.
We're joined by the man I know who I think can basically recite this whole film from memory. For once, it's me dragging in my old high school friends instead of Matt. It's Muss.
How you doing? I am Muss.
Yes, he is. Yeah, that was a fantastic 7 a.m. introduction. Yeah. We're here.
I really
do this.
I really truly felt how early it was over there for you guys in that one.
It probably didn't help that it's also like below freezing in our rooms when we wake up, unless Luke leaves his heat on.
No, I tried to wake up early and put it on in advance, but then that just makes me all dehydrated and even more groggy.
Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to get out of bed and turn the heater on for a while. So that's our world. Okay, Small Soldiers. Maybe I just saw it. It was the first time when it came out. I was 18, and it wasn't quite on the radar. What am I mixing it up with? Army Men or something? Where Army does the sergeant or something? CGI about the same time, I think.
There was a bunch of video games around the same time of the Army Men.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always, for some reason, mix it up with Beast Wars. I think just because the PlayStation games are very similar.
Okay. Anyway, I feel like it does have not quite a movie clone because I guess they don't look like Army Men or something. It's just the general idea. So when you suggested it like a month ago,
like Toy Story.
That has the Army Men. That's right. Oh, is that where Army? Okay, that might be where I'm crossing my wires and come to think of it. Did they not get their own movie at some point? It must be my Shazam or something.
Yeah, I don't think there was like a Army Men movie because I'd have been all over that shit.
Yeah. wait, is it Shazam? Wait, what is the fake Sinbad one? The one Sinbad didn't make? Okay, Shazam, just making sure. Because now we have the superhero Shazam and it all gets confusing. Anyway, yeah, just saw it, had it confused, didn't even know what movie this was till I watched it. So
you said to me you thought it was an animated film.
Yeah, I thought it was fully animated.
Yeah, I went and saw this film on release in the cinema with my dad. Now, I could never, because I saw this and I saw Batman and Robin. And one of them was because my mum was on a business trip to America. So me and my dad went to see a film. And the other one was because my mum was giving birth to my brother. And me and my dad went and saw a film. I don't think like literally during the labor. I think in the days afterwards. I don't think my dad was like, "Ah, fuck it, I'm not staying for that. I'm gonna go watch a film about soldiers."
Small ones.
But yeah, it was one of these two films. They were the two films I went and saw with my dad because my mum was for whatever reason not there, and my dad didn't know what else to do with me. But yeah, I was like a big action figures kid, so I fucking loved this film.
Did you get the action figures?
I definitely had an Archer. I remember that much.
I have Insaniac, although not with me here, but he was the blue spinning Gorgonite that talks really fast in the film. So I had him.
I remember
And it was a
seeing it
really good figurine.
in the Argos catalog in the run up to the film. And before the film came out, I didn't know that actually the Gorgonites were the good guys and the soldiers were the baddies.
Mhm.
And I was like, why have they only got one of the soldiers for sale, but all these monsters? I want to have the whole team of commandos.
I sort of
want-
assumed that. I like you are like, oh, we have the Gorgonites. I was like, gee, it just feels like maybe because they look slightly more human, although with horrific Joker grins and stuff.
But yeah, once you watch the film, like, yeah, obviously you're meant to have the Gorgonites. They're the lovable characters, and the commandos are just generic soldiery men. But yeah, I would have loved to have had the full set of both, but obviously I don't think they were cheap.
Mm-mm. Although there were a load of Burger King and like McDonald's toys.
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of Americans of our age, who were like the right age, the kids' age to watch the film when it came out, a lot of them will remember the Burger King ads. Also, I'm told that came with small soldiers. I'm not sure that was such a big thing over here, but I definitely see my memory of this film was a bit skewed because I watched it so much on VHS that I just as a kid, I didn't get too many films, but this was one I watched like over and over again. So that's kind of where all my memories from it come from. Unless the action figure stuff, I wasn't allowed too many. But it was a fun film for me because like my mum would be very insistent that I couldn't have any toys or things that involved guns. And this film doesn't so much, well, I mean, it's got gun-like stuff in it, right? It's the edgy Toy Story, or that's what you'd think from the, from the marketing and stuff.
So yeah, I haven't, because me and Muss met when we were like 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really know each other as little kids. So you weren't like an action figure kid.
I mean, I had a few, but not especially, no.
Okay. See, because yeah, I was all about that. That was most, because I played a little bit of like football and a bit of rugby, but wasn't really a sporty guy. And my parents would only let me play video games for like an hour a day. So I was just always in like an imaginary world with my figures. And I remember thinking, like, I can't wait till I'm an adult and I can just play with action figures all day and no one will tell me not to. I'm just going to have a room in my house that's just like a diorama to play with my action figures. And yeah, somewhere along the way, it just stops being fun. It's really depressing. I'd love it if I could still entertain myself for a whole day just with some toys.
When's the last time you tried? You got the diorama, right?
But when we were like, I guess I was like 18, we bought a job lot of G.I. Joes off eBay. And we were gonna do that, and then we never got around to it. Although I did make some stop motion Shakespeare plays with them.
That made it all worth it.
A few years later, I do remember getting like a big batch of little plastic Daleks free with a comic book and playing with them in the bath. I think I was like 21 at that point.
Thanks for sharing, mate.
This one is, I noticed, because I also just didn't quite cross my radar. It's directed by Joe Dante, who we covered a bit of in the Twilight Zone movie a few months ago. And you mentioned kind of this is like the raw ass Toy Story, right? But it's kind of like halfway between that and Joe Dante's Gremlins to a certain extent. It's definitely got the mischief vibe. Gremlins being a little more hardcore and goopy about it, of course. Maybe that's the 80s. I don't know.
Yeah,
from what I understand, the film was originally going to be more of a aimed at teenagers before the whole let's make sure we can market this stuff at kids was part of the backstory to it, which is why I think this film is such a mishmash between some pretty messed up stuff that happens at times and also being sold as a commodified kids product you know.
I think
So,
maybe
sorry,
that's
Luke.
why I loved it so much as a kid, because I didn't feel like it was speaking down to me.
Hmm.
Because yeah, that's Joe Dante wouldn't make a film that was like kiddie and twee. And yeah, it wasn't until me and Matt did the Twilight Zone episode that I realized that this same guy had directed so many films I like.
Another shout out to the Burbs one. Definitely he's got his vibe, you know. So the Burbs being the one I find is most overlooked most of the time. Because
it's not even on his IMDb known for.
yeah, that's sad. That's sad because that might be his best movie. I guess I'll go ahead and do the story for this movie.
Engage.
In an attempt to corner the toy market, Globotech enlists what is basically a Mr. Show sketch to develop toys that play back using advanced military technology. Derpy teen Alan Abernathy unleashes these toys upon the public a bit early while he's taking charge of his dad's in-town failing toy emporium. Alan befriends the alien Gorgonites, doomed to fail in their dealings with the War Corps Commando Elite, a force of full testosterone AI soldiers primed to destroy the Gorgonites. All the Gorgonites want to do is hide, while in the meantime, the Commando Elite takes families hostage and drugs them and stuff. While the first assault ends with most of the Commando Elite destroyed, leader Chip Hazard finds another shipment of toys and reinforces his battalion. Meanwhile, the Alan Gorgonite end of the spectrum works out a plan to shut off the Elite with an EMP blast. The Gorgonites escape unscathed, having shielded themselves from under a satellite dish. I feel like I probably missed something there. So it's a one viewing summary.
Yeah. No, the wacky thing I always forget is the Gorgonites only actually do anything for like 2 minutes of the film.
Yeah, they're busy hiding. Their whole thing is we don't do things. We just wait to be,
that's like, if we're going to try and get into like an actual interesting thing about this film, like the idea that they've been programmed to lose.
Yeah.
Like that's their existence.
And they know it, it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's very, Kafkaesque, I guess.
No, there is something to talk about there, but first, I guess we should get some more wacky shit out of the way.
Yeah, there's lots of actors. Depressingly, it is Phil Hartman's last movie, which came out after he was shot by his wife. That sounds horrible. Yeah, but
I almost made a very poor taste joke there.
Okay,
I know you did, mate.
I was just thinking, like, if he's obviously, I'm sure the actor is not like the characters he plays. But if I was married to any of his characters from films, I would shoot him.
Yeah, good point. I assume, I assume that's not the case. But who else is here? We got, I don't know. Should we go to the voices? Tommy Lee Jones is what sticks out in the end, I guess.
Tommy Lee Jones is great in this. I could imagine they didn't even give him the full script. They just gave him, please read out all of these sound bites that don't make sense together. I love when he's giving his speech and it's just a series of non sequiturs taken from other famous military speeches that don't quite add up to making any sense.
Sound and fury. It's all fun. Yeah. So I did find it highly amusing that they sort of canned all the voices of the toys just a little bit.
Yeah, because they're meant to be coming out of a toy, right? So
yeah, I know, but I hadn't really seen a movie bother with that before. Toy Story doesn't do it.
Toy Story does it when they're playing one of their quotes.
Oh, right, like someone.
Like when he pulls the string, it sounds like that, but when he's talking, it doesn't. Yeah. Whereas, this is them always doing the string shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was, I don't recall seeing that in another movie. So
oh shit, you know who does Insaniac's voice, Smuts?
Who's that?
Saul Goodman's brother from Breaking Bad, Michael McKean.
Nice.
He's also the guy who sells he tries to sell all the little toys of Johnny Five in Short Circuit 2.
And he's a member of Spinal Tap.
He's in all the weirdest shit.
Insaniac seems like the good Spinal Tap friendly concept. That'd be a good 80s metal song. Insaniac. Yeah, it could work quite well. I didn't catch him though, so yeah.
Frank Langella is in there as Archer. But he's not doing anything too fun. It's quite a dry performance.
Yeah, I actually had to find the photo of him to attach to the name. I mean, I know the name. I was like, who is he exactly? Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he's just a character actor, right?
He's got
He was Skeletor in Masters of the Universe, I think, though, right?
The movie version, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you might be right because when I saw it, I thought Skeletor, but I was thinking of the cartoon. I'm like, that can be right. That's Cobra Commander guy, right? So that was a fun story I heard about that guy's son. What is the voice actor's name that did Cobra Commander and stuff? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head. I should have Transformers fan because he's also Starscream.
You're right, exactly. So his kid would go to school and be like, my dad's this and this, and then you're like, shut up, you're an idiot, right? And then eventually, when the dad was at school, he's like, yeah, I'm Cobra Commander. So he was justified in his horrible ramblings.
I think he was dead before I was going to Transformers conventions, but I did meet the original Optimus Prime, and it turns out he's also Eeyore.
Oh, okay, that's a weird mix.
Yeah, hearing him do both of those voices is really weird.
He can have a conversation with himself, a sip. Okay.
See, the two roles I remember from this as a kid, obviously, is Kirsten Dunst.
Right.
Because, went on to be a big part of my childhood growing up.
Right.
And then Gregory Smith, who is the cut rate John Connor they've got as the leading man.
And I looked up his info, and apparently later, like relatively recently, he's been the lead of a TV show. But yeah, it was kind of like he stands out because there's so many recognizable faces here, and the age seems weird. Like he seems like he's a good 10 years younger than Kristen Dunst for some reason.
That's because we're so used to teenagers not being played by people who look like teenagers.
Yeah.
Whereas he probably is the same age as Kirsten Dunst. And in real life, boys and girls do develop differently, right?
No, that's what I was thinking. Like in real life, like they probably are the same. So, because this is about the time Kristen Dunst did Dick.
So she was born in 82. Gregory Smith was born in 83. So about the same.
Okay.
But we're so used to seeing like they'd have basically had a 30-year-old playing a high schooler who was meant to get off with her. So.
I guess the only other issue with him is he's just kind of here, right?
Yeah, he's very well. They tried to give him like he's got this bad boy history and his parents don't trust him and stuff, but he just comes across as such a wet blanket. It doesn't work at all.
Right, as I put in my write-up, derpy teen Alan Abernathy, yeah.
But he's got the floppy hair and the checkered shirt. He's like the most 90s teen protagonist I've ever seen. And his dad is the same dad from Transformers.
Right. And then, when the movie starts with David Cross and Jay Moore, I'm like, what are we doing, Mr. Show here? So, and I think, no, it's Global Chem, I think, is the company in Mr. Show. Because I was like, it's the same company, but maybe a little different. Yeah,
Globotech is a total, just like this era of movies. Here's the evil corporation. Like,
what do you name the evil corporation now?
Now you have to try and make it like an Apple proxy.
Incendium.
Yeah, something like that. It has to sound all fancy. Because of this film, I always grew up thinking David Cross and Robert Picardo were the same person.
Oh yeah, this movie really threw me off when they're in the same scenes. I was like, "What's happening?" They're I know both of these people, but I can't tell them apart.
But this is my first exposure to both.
Okay.
Then, I would see them both and just didn't occur to me they were two different people. Even though in this film they're in like the same scenes together.
Literally in the same scene.
Yeah. But child brain does weird things. I don't think I did have this on VHS like Muss. I saw it in the theater and then saw it multiple times like on Channel 5. But I couldn't just watch it over and over on demand. So it had like weird mythic status in my head.
Ooh. I'm trying to think of what my overviewed kid films were. Probably Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, of course. Man, nothing interesting's in there. Sorry.
Sorry, mine were all not kids' films. It was Terminator, Terminator 2, Commando, and Predator.
I'm just thinking
Probably
about
another reason I love this as a kid is because he kind of looks like a Terminator at the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, a little bit of that. And then you mentioned that I didn't really pick up on the cut rate John Connor thing, but now that you mentioned it, it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
He even rides on the back of a motorbike.
So this kid is basically supposed to be like a Jesus metaphor.
He is Jesus to the Gorgonites, yeah.
Right. Everyone
He's the
is
keeper of
Jesus.
Van Carter.
Everyone
I believe
is
you'll
Jesus
find
to somebody.
But yeah, obviously, no one gives a shit about all these human characters.
Yo, why are we talking about them? Okay, back to the back to the monsters. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you want to go straight to the monsters. We're skip the titular soldiers.
I mean, we could spend a little time on the commandos because they are fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
just this constant stream of really cheesy like war movie parodies. Is that their entire language? It's just lines they've picked up from war movies.
Well, lines have been programmed in them from war movies. Which,
yeah, exactly.
That's like what the military's like, man. They just program you to say these certain things.
Well, they even have a bit where he's like saying he's going to get Kirsten Dunst deprogrammed, and then one of the monsters is like, "You can't undo programming."
They're like philosophical Packlids from Star Trek or something.
I did get a bit of a Packlet vibe from them, yeah.
Oh, so we're
I think they're all right. Those commandos, they had it hard. They were programmed to think that they could just conquer and win against these Gorgonites, right? So they've got this idea built into them that war is just something that is a bit of a game that they will win, that they can just march across and manifest destiny, everything in their sight, right? And that's one of the fun things I think about this film, is that you can actually look at it as a critique of the military industrial complex and the commodification of war, because there's loads of little moments in the film, like where the neighbor, he says World War II is my favorite movie.
I love that. He says,
right?
I think World War II was my favorite war.
Yeah, and the film opens with Globotech, right? Just basically saying, "Oh, look, we did all this military stuff, but now we really want to do toys." And it's like this commercialization of something that's actually really terrible and horrifying, which is war, but in the medium of a kids film, right? It's still got that kid-like mythic ethos around the idea that war is just a thing that you do and you have a win and it's fine, right? And that's kind of where the commandos sit for me on this kind of ideological spectrum. They allow you to see that childlike interpretation of war, or if not childlike, then maybe a throwback to older American not so successful conquests of or defenses of Vietnam, where can go so well. But the idea was that you could hold and capture or change the minds of and subsume to your will the people, whereas the Gorgonites are much more, if you want to take that kind of, I don't know, they're much more children of the Enlightenment, right? They are programmed to learn, right? So it's not just that they know they're going to lose. They're also, there's like moments in the film where, sorry, I'm rambling a bit now.
It's fine.
Feel free to cut me off.
Don't worry.
But there's moments in the film, right, where they reflect on the fact that they are designed to learn. And I think it's that knowledge of failure that probably drives them a little bit to overcome their limits in a more, we can solve problems if we just take some time to think about them a little bit. I know they only come into the film like right at the end and do something right at the end, but there is a big build up, which is all this journey of like, Archer saying, "What's wind, mate?" and stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
Sorry,
I think
I rambled a bit.
Master Yoda did say failure is the best teacher, and the Commandos don't have that in them. They can't really improve. I think this is another one of those films which is really interesting that it was made pre 9/11. I feel like for 10 years after 9/11, you couldn't make this film. It was not acceptable to criticize the military for that period. You could maybe make it again now, but now it would have to be video games.
I feel like we were pretty raw on the military.
Not in like a children's film.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
And it would have to be like, you got to support the troops, right? Maybe you could criticize the military-industrial complex, but you couldn't parody the troops in that.
Because apparently there actually was a remake of this in the works that got scuttled after a Disney buyout or something.
Okay.
It was going to be like the
Disney.
Yeah, the toy factory itself goes amok or something, right?
Okay.
And it wasn't clear it was going to be a remake, but apparently once it was scuttled and the papers, whatever, it was it actually was going to be a Small Soldiers remake. So
okay.
So it was on someone's mind at least.
But yeah, because these days, like military business being commodified for kids, sold to them, it's Call of Duty and Fortnite, and like Microsoft buying out every entertainment company under the sun so that people will look the other way when they build drones to blow children up, like.
But then, and there's a part towards the beginning of the movie where the CEO of Globotech, he says, we won't call it violence, we'll sell this as action because kids love action, right? But it's like, it's exactly what you're saying, right? It's the commodification of violence, but wrapped up in a children's toy and ideas of war and violence and stuff, but socially acceptable because it's in a children's toy, except these toys are a little bit violent. Like actually violent.
But it seems it was the drugging that was the real problem.
It's chemical warfare in a children's movie. Where else? I've never seen that somewhere before.
I definitely haven't heard the phrase chemical warfare just uttered out of the blue by Tommy Lee Jones in a children's film before. That was great.
Tommy can't accept he's in a children's film, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just going to do what he is.
He can't. What is it? I cannot. It's not condone. I cannot sanction your tomfoolery. That's the one.
Oh, right.
The famous Tommy Lee Jones line to Jim Carrey.
So we got the Gorgonites, blah blah blah.
The fun thing about the Gorgonites is like I do think that is actually how society gets away with a lot of shit, is just convincing people they can't win. Like there's this whole thing these days of like violence is exclusively acceptable by the state, and we can only do peaceful protest. And as soon as you do the slightest bit of aggression in your protest, even if you're protesting being shot and killed in the streets, like you're in the wrong suddenly. Like the idea that you cannot fight back against the state, you can't win and it's not acceptable, is something that's been programmed into society. Admittedly, not quite to the same extent it has to the Gorgonites, but that is a real thing that systems of power use. And here, it's like, I noticed Archer is very clearly meant to look like a Native American.
Yeah, that kind of came through a little bit. And then what he's saying is similar to things you'd hear from like Chief Seattle and stuff.
Not the stuff about like we're losers, but the more philosophical stuff he says. Yeah. I guess like what else was coming out around 98 where it's just like the US military is just purely the bad guys in it?
Dances with Wolves would have been a few years before this.
They
don't make the military look so great in there. Three Kings was about this time.
No, Three Kings was a bit later, wasn't it? Because I feel like that's about the second Gulf War.
No, it was about the first one, I believe.
Okay. I guess it's just because it came out and then everything happened.
It came out close. It came out very close to the second one, so it's easy to associate. But yeah, that one
weird.
Didn't have a whole lot of good to say for the military.
Actually, I guess now I think about it, around that period, there wasn't much stuff being made for kids that made the military look good. Like, we didn't have a G.I. Joe or anything around then. And like the big heroes in the 90s were like the X-Men who were fighting against the system. So yeah. Maybe I think this was the height of, because now it's like the MCU, a lot of them kind of work for the military. Transformers, they kind of work with the military. Like post 9/11, we get less of this fight against the system stuff.
They have their fallouts a lot, though, right? It's like you work in the system and then you find out that the system's screwed, man.
Well, yeah, it's like the entire Daniel Craig series of Bond films. Every single film, it's like, well, now he's working against the government. It stopped being interesting when they did it for the 5th time in a row.
Yeah.
Every single Daniel Craig film, he's just come back out of retirement and then he's breaking the rules.
Well, he's got to show them young pups how to do it, right?
Yeah, but when he's doing that from his 2nd film, maybe hire a younger actor. It's like the origin, and then the 2nd film is now he's too old.
He's still a lot younger than Roger Moore. Who actually apparently said, gee, I think you should be pairing Bond up with some older women because I'm like 65 now.
I've got a lot of time for Roger Moore when one of the films he turns up on set and the love interest is like 40 years younger than him, and he's just like, I'm not doing that. Fair play.
Right. But Roger Moore's not in this movie, which is his main failing, I suppose.
I wish he was.
Okay. How are the Gorgonites proper monsters? I guess I wrote aliens in my write-up.
I mean, they're always calling them like mutant freaks and stuff.
Yeah.
They are right. I don't know if they're from Earth as such, but they're some sort of monster / alien. And they're like conceived as like a learning aid for kids, which is crazy when you think about it, because Insaniac is literally this twisted Joker figure. One of them is just an eye that walks around. But like, yeah, the idea is that I suppose the idea is quite a nice one behind them, which is that there'd be this kind of language barrier between some of the Gorgonites and the kid who is meant to be learning along with them, that the kid is going to have to work with the Gorgonite, I suppose, in some way to overcome. And so it's a kind of, I don't know, that's where I sort of think more of them as being an idea of the Enlightenment, that you can, if you work at it and think and overcome some sort of language impasse, even if your toy is literally just a single blinking eye or a strange spinning man. This is thinking about it far more deeply probably than anyone has ever thought of small soldiers before, but I think that's the basis for them, right?
It's a clear case of the monsters were designed for this film, not for that backstory. So they don't actually, most of their designs make sense as educational coming to Earth to learn guys. They make sense as monsters that fight the commandos. But at the start of the film, he's got the pictures of them and they're meant to be these peaceful Gorgonites, but it's still the same characters. But yeah, they've just got some really interesting designs. Like Archer's, pretty normal, but he's kind of cute.
Sure.
Yeah, Insaniac, like you say, is kind of like this weird Joker figure. I can't remember the name, but the one where it's like the battering ram one and he's got the little guy on his head.
Yeah, that's Punch It, the rhino typed one, and Scratch It, the little nibbly fella that jumps off his head.
Yeah, they're great. There's a monster in like a couple of Star Wars films who looks a bit like him. Then there's the one who's just got a big boulder for a hand. Isn't he called like Boldor?
Slam Fist.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, I knew Muss was the guy for this.
Yeah, I'm saying I didn't get like names.
You needed that kid in the cinema you had for Transformers.
I mean, the other thing to go along with my backstory of this is that obviously this film launched alongside like the fast food stuff, but it also had like the toys and the video game. And so I had the Small Soldiers video game, which is where I learned about all these other characters. And in that game, you play as Archer, but you can on various levels summon different Gorgonites, and he says their names. So it's like pretty ingrained in me from that.
The game, it's not you're not playing as action figures, right? It's set in their fictional world.
It's set in a really bizarre. So it isn't Earth. It's like some bizarre world, some Gorgonite world, and there are a load of characters that aren't in the movie,
Okay.
just to make it work for the game. Like these weird. It was like, it's one of those games. It's a bit like a kid's version of Doom in some sense, where you have to go around, get a key to open a new door, then go get a key, backtrack a little bit, open a new door, and the things that would let you open the doors were these weird aliens that only had like an upper body and then like an earthworm Jin style head that would just sort of sway around like this and say really weird things. So it was nothing like the movies, and the commandos just happened to be in there shooting at you sometimes. But there you go.
Because I never owned the Small Soldiers game, but I used to play it at Aaron's house a bit. So I mostly just played the multiplayer. So it was just Gorgonite.
That was like a one-on-one deathmatch, but there was like a campaign to it in the single player. And there's like, it's just one of those like childhood memories where there's certain sounds that I really remember from that game. Like when you completed a level, the game would go, "The ancients are pleased." And if you didn't complete it, they would say, "The ancients are displeased."
I like to think they used the same recording and just added the ancients are displeased.
Yeah, they probably did.
But yeah, my friend, I used to play at Aaron's house, and I guess the message of the film hit him the wrong way because he did join the army. But he was the one kid all the way through school we knew was going to join the army. He was obsessed with it.
Here's a little tie-in. They start doing when Johnny comes marching home, Dr. Strangelove sort of reference, which plays through half of that movie. So,
the whole film is just full of references to old war movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually it's the more like the kind of cliched one. So I was just there's a Dr. Strangelove, which is a different.
It's also
flavor.
got a lot of cute little sci-fi movie references. A lot of when the commandos are doing weird science fiction-y things, it plays a little War of the Worlds sound effects.
Oh yeah, okay.
When they're converting all the what are they called, Gwendy dolls?
Yes.
It's playing the sound effect from like the little green beams they do in War of the Worlds. And when he's got his disc, it's doing the eye sound effect from War of the Worlds as well.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a real. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just spitting out words. Go ahead.
Okay. Fair enough. I was just going to say, there's a real like weird pastiche quality to this film of just a load of stuff that's just crammed in there, because you've also got a number of scenes that are basically Toy Story, but far more violent. There's a scene where Alan is cycling home and he's got Archer in his backpack after his dad kicks him out of the store for being a bad kid, I guess. And the Commando Elite fire brick bazooka at the one of the toys at Archer at the bike, and he kind of lassos his way onto it, and then he's being chased by a dog. Now that dog could very easily have been Spike from Toy Story 1, and the scene where the pivotal kind of climactic scene of that movie where the toys are trying to get back on the removal van. So you've got the dog chasing, and it's just, instead of an RC car that's kind of powering the toys that are also trying to escape this dog, there's Alan on his bike. There's also a scene where one of the toys, I think it's Archer, gets into the house by attaching himself to like a rocket and then parachuting in down, a little bit like how Buzz eventually does kind of glide at the end of Toy Story 1. So there's a couple of like Toy Story like riffs thrown into this movie alongside all these other things like weird, just crazy music choices like the Spice Girls being played out, and all these other just like
psychological warfare.
Being used as psychological warfare, which is quite interesting because you would imagine that this movie would be marketed predominantly at boys, and so to literally use these Spice Girls as psychological warfare is possibly something that resonated quite well with child me, who grew up with a sister that liked the Spice Girls. Right. But there's
you're basically explaining director Joe Dante's complete vibe there, by the way. That's
just a load of pastiche type stuff. Is that what you mean? Or a hatred of the Spice Girls?
Subversive pastiche.
Yeah.
And everything, but including the kitchen sink thrown in, that sort of thing.
Because in my head, I think of this and Toy Story as coming out basically the same time, but that's not the case, is it? There was like 5 years between them, I think.
More like 2, but yeah, a couple. I think Toy Story is 95, and this is 97, 98.
98. So yeah, like
98, something like that.
Yeah. Also, I have my note
Toy
here.
Story is always earlier than I remember it being, and this is always a bit later than I remember it being. So,
I think that's because when 2 came out, everyone kind of just like retrofitted that date for Toy Story in general. You think 99 for Toy Story, but that's the sequel. Just getting back to that scene with Brick Bazooka being shot at the bike, I do have the note here. Brick Bazooka no longer has a dick. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, well, they're all just Ken dolls down there anyway, so
yeah, that's true. But at least
what did they want to do with those Wendy's that they saw?
Right.
And why did they program them with horniness?
Because they got to be proper soldiers.
Part of being a soldier is rape and pillage, I guess. So.
Yeah. Can't leave. You gotta leave in the bad with the good.
If you
have, or the insane.
I love how in that scene, it's all of the like, it's not Major Chip Hazard. Major Chip is always the straight man. He's always like, no, we gotta. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. We gotta.
Well, ironically, he's the not straight man in this scene.
But yeah, right. He's the asexual man. But it's all the other ones who are like I don't know, the rowdy side of the of the military. Let's just say.
Yeah. Have you seen the David Mitchell bit on rape and pillage?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know David Mitchell is a British comedian who did a bunch of YouTube, like basically rants, and one of them was about like how insane it is that it's perfectly fine to talk about rape and pillage. That's like just charming, quaint historical Viking stuff. But it's got the word rape right in there, and pillage isn't that good either. But because it's a long time ago, everyone just sort of says it like it's all fine and dandy.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the old George Carlin bit where he's like, "What if we just took movie dialogue and replaced the line 'kill' with 'fuck'?" You know, I'm gonna fuck him. I want to fuck him real slow. Credit your comedians as you steal their bits, right?
So, Matt, considering you saw this like for the first time now, how did the effects hold up?
Well, again, one of the reasons Toy Story hasn't dated so badly is because it was CG animating like gloop, right? Like plastic, which this one does as well. Like they're not supposed to look that good. Apparently, the original goal here was to do a lot more puppetry, and it just didn't work out. So
I think there's still a fair bit in there.
There is, but I was looking at the wiki where the director was saying like, I was thinking it's gonna be like 75% puppetry and 25% CG, and it turned out like the other way.
Okay.
So, it didn't bother me. Again, that was the early conceit of CG. If you did toys, as long as you weren't trying to do actual people, you were probably fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For the longest time, CG was pretty good at doing toys, robots, spaceships. They just couldn't do anything biological.
Right. So
even now, I don't think we can do people. Still, if like when you're in a Marvel film and there's like one of the human characters is briefly replaced with the CG version, you're like, they just turned into a PlayStation character for a second.
Oh, you mean like within live action? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I mean, Pixar has reasonably okay.
No, yeah. But I mean, to make it look real, right?
Yeah, to make it photo real. And we all know what happened with the Final Fantasy movie.
Yeah. Or Matrix Reloaded, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the also Joe Dante. I mean, we just did Twilight Zone and noted how cool the effects were there. You know, it's the same. I mean, obviously, different people are like hands on the effects, but same director. So,
yeah, he's got a good eye for mixing actors with a bunch of wacky stuff going on. And I think one thing that makes it work really well is he's not afraid to actually like cut and stab people in his films. Like, yeah, for ostensibly a kid's film, Alan's getting like sliced and stabbed and shit all the way through.
He gets shot by so many projectiles. He gets hit by that circular saw in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then his dad comes down. He's like, "What are you doing, Alan?" Oh, I don't know. I guess I don't know. What'd you do to your hand? I've been a derpy teenager.
I fell down
Great
the
to see.
stairs.
See, this is
Yeah.
I always hate this kind of scene in films because I guess I just feel it too much. But the whole like, oh, he's gonna get in trouble, shit. And
Yeah.
then like this is a really bad example for like if you just sat down and explained everything properly, you could solve all your problems so quickly. He never does. Why did he not?
There is.
Why in the first place did he try and hide the fact that they'd stolen stuff? He didn't have to tell him it was the toys. Just tell his dad they got robbed. Or maybe that's what he was in trouble for the first time, was trying to. People keep saying that he wants to commit insurance fraud, so
Yeah.
maybe he's already tried it, and that's why his dad wouldn't believe him.
Yeah, remember, this kid is clearly a delinquent.
It's just like the lamest delinquent I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the real delinquents seem lame, right?
I guess.
You don't get Johnny Cool Kid that way. No.
I do like her like quote unquote cool boyfriend just immediately gives up as soon as the toys attack him and we never see him again.
He just had his bike, that's all.
Yeah. Bike
That was
guy.
that was his whole character, bike guy, yes.
Well, and apparently like
My
older guy trying to bang a high schooler.
that too.
Yeah.
My favorite line of his is when Alan and I can't remember her name, but Kirsten Dunst's character outside the school, and bike guy turns up
Christy.
for first time, and he's like, "Hey, aren't you that kid who burnt down your previous school?" And Alan goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to see it burn." And then the bike guy just goes, "Yeah, whatever." And I'm like, "But why?
You brought it up.
I feel like this is A, you brought it up, and B, I feel like bike guy. This is what you would bond with
Yeah.
Steve Allen over. He just goes, "Nah, whatever." And then, yeah, of course, later on we just see him. And to be fair, it's probably one of the more human reactions to that scene, because where you've got all these horribly deformed Gwendy dolls that have fully, tied up your girlfriend in a room, right? And he's all like, "What?" I'm like, to be fair, his reaction's pretty legit. I understand that if my toys were actually alive and doing this shit, I'd be fucking freaking out.
Yeah. But
yeah, I know.
He doesn't come back. I thought he'd at least show up again a bit later, but he doesn't come back at all. He has one encounter with them and just nopes out there for the whole film.
Yeah, he just kind of goes, "Whatever. No, I'm not going to call for help.
Yeah.
Whatever."
I'm ghosting this chick. I'm done.
Yeah.
No, I won't wish that your toys ever turn on you, but what I do want to happen is that picture of Bob Ross behind you to start like floating through the air and talking to you. That's what I'm going to wish on you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. As long as it's like in character, as long as it's in character as Bob Ross and not just some horrible manifestation that has Bob's voice but not his soul.
What if it's got Bob's voice but a demon? Bob's soul but a demon voice? That'd be kind of cool.
I'm smelling a little tree.
Everyone
needs a friend.
I'm sensing that we're deviating a little bit farther away from Small Soldiers and veering towards rebooting Buffy with some strange cosmic encounters.
With the ghost
Sarah
of Bob
Michelle
Ross.
Gellar was one of the Gwendy voices.
She was one of the Gwendy dolls, yeah.
So was Christina Ricci, who I wouldn't have thought was even old enough to be in this film.
Well, she had done the Addams Family movies a few years prior.
Yeah, I guess she was born 1980, so she would have been like 16, 17 when they were making this.
Right. Addams Family Values, very good movie. Recommended.
I always just think of her as Speed Racer.
Yeah. No, she didn't play Speed Racer in that movie.
No. I know. Don't fucking talk to me about Speed Racer, man.
but you said you wanted to talk about Speed Racer at some point.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting to get BitSocket on for that.
Okay. Do we do the how is this movie holding up? I clearly thought it was a video game that I thought was a movie for 20 plus years. So, but I mean, again, it wasn't marketed to me in the first place. I'm trying to think of what I'd be seeing at this point in time. I guess animation wise, I remember seeing Prince of Egypt because the film projector broke down during the ending credits, and I gave everyone a refund anyway. I was like, that's a score. It's like, oh, I didn't hear the hit song I hate. Okay, that's fine.
Oh,
See, and I called it animated again.
oh, sorry,
too, didn't
I heard you say I gave it a free refund, so I was thinking you worked at the theater, but no, you just
oh,
got
no.
Right, okay. No, I mean, it's not really an animated film. You have to rank it among like live action stuff.
Yeah, that's why I kind of had to like take a step back and correct what I was saying.
I mean, you're the only one who can really judge how this film holds up because it's so wrapped in nostalgia for me and Muss.
I'm thinking of what my reaction would have been if I did see this in '98. I think we would have put it so in the ballpark of like that second Mummy movie or something.
Okay.
Where it's kind of like fast and loud and ultimately doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm not even saying that's completely true. I'm just saying that's how we would have watched it at the time.
Right, when you were 18. Would you, if you'd gone into it as like, I'm a big Joe Dante fan, I liked the Gremlins movies, would you have been disappointed?
Probably because I would have been like, oh, it wasn't as hardcore as Gremlins.
Right.
And actually, I guess, yeah, it's weird because I feel like Joe Dante actually would have, I guess I just didn't notice he had made it at the time. So, yeah.
It's not like his name's all over it. I don't think they advertised it as like from the visionary director of Gremlins.
Right.
Just like, look at these cool characters, kids. You like this shit.
Yeah, because we like Gremlins. We were pretty Burbs obsessed, as I said. He's made a few others that I should be noting and just like not thinking of at the moment. But yeah, so I don't think it would have really been much of a hit for me when in 1998. So
I think it's oddly nostalgic to watch now because I feel like the age of when like it used to be every Christmas there's the toy. And it's like we had the same conversation with Jingle All the Way. Right. And right, say Jingle All the Way, Toy Story, and this. The big action figure the kids all want is way bigger than any action figure any kid I knew had. No one in the 90s was buying 12-inch action figures. It was all 6-inch or 9-inch. But yeah, that's real toy geek shit.
Well, that's also doesn't, they wanted to look good on screen, right? So.
Yeah. I know. If they were like actual like little 6-inch Kenner figure sized soldiers trying to attack everyone, it wouldn't have worked as well.
Although again, that is what I was thinking when
look, you were thinking the actual army men, and they're really small.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of the film's messages hold up as well, if not better, than they did at the time. It's just that the idea of toys is just less of a thing in culture these days because plastic is too expensive because there's no oil left, and all the kids are playing on their damn iPads. So.
Damn iPads. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, watching this movie a couple of nights ago, it didn't make me want to like punch myself in the face or anything. I was waiting to see if someone tried it.
You're far away from me, otherwise I would have punched you.
Punch you in the face.
No, you want us to punch ourselves in the face, I see.
I just wanted to see if someone did do that for a joke, but no one.
Yeah, I could fucking take me anytime.
While fighting a cat. I can take on myself and the cat at the same time.
Hit myself with the cat.
Oh, the two birds with one cat. There we go. But so yeah, on the hold up scale, I guess for me it is more in the curiosity ballpark, right? Like I'm curious because yeah, this is something that, like definitely probably for 8 to 12-year-old boy, this probably hits the spot, especially in the 90s. I get that, but I guess a good equivalent would be Goonies, where you watch Goonies now, and it's not really that great a movie, but
well, I had with Goonies what you probably had with this because I didn't see Goonies till I was an adult,
right?
And I was kind of boring,
and kind of the same wheelhouse because did Donner actually direct that? Anyway, it's in the Amblin Spielberg thing, and Joe Dante is kind of a Spielberg protege. So,
yeah,
and Donner did the last part of Twilight Zone. Yeah, okay, it's all cinematic incest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Soul Soldiers as like a cohesive whole. It's not really a cohesive whole. It's all over the place, right? It's unfocused at times. The script oscillates from being quite amusing to very bland and almost pointless from scene to scene. But it's just got like it's got a lot of fun stuff in there, and I think it's like Luke says, for me it's difficult to come anywhere close to objectively reviewing or thinking about whether or not this film holds up, because it is so wrapped up in nostalgia. But I did watch this with my partner before the podcast, and she enjoyed it, although maybe that was influenced by me enjoying it a little bit. Like, I think there's enough in the film for anyone to kind of go, it's not bad, but I would understand if people would go, nah, you know, it's all right, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking up now how it did at the time, and the reviews were like, yeah, it's all right. And then the box office was like, yeah, it made a profit, but it didn't like set the world on fire. And I guess that is about where it feels like it should be.
I guess Gregory Smith as Alan is probably the weak link here. I mean, again, he's just there. Like, this is 98. It wouldn't even be ripping off Transformers. Imagine this movie with LaBouffe in the role. Then it probably would have caught a lot more fire.
Yeah, I guess a slightly more charming lead would have helped, because the film takes a little while to build to all the soldier stuff. So the stuff where you're kind of meant to be hanging the film on him is a bit limp.
Yeah, so I think maybe they didn't hang their hat in the right place, you know?
I think it does a good job, though, of the first few times you see the figures, it's definitely animatronic and they're moving quite believably. And it really slowly builds to them doing like insane stuff. So like I think that's pure Joe Dante. Like, he's good at making you believe it by building up to it slowly.
Yeah, again,
I wonder if it was made today by like Michael Bay, you'd have had an opening scene where like Chip Hazard kills 30 guys.
See, that's such an interesting contrast with what Alan actually does, right? In the conclusion of the film. Like, we know that Alan he's down with the Gorgonites. He understands the situation in a way that the adults don't until their house is literally under siege by an army of commandos. But the climax of the conflict is Alan climbing up a telegraph pole, getting stabbed in the hand a few times by Major Chip Hazard before picking him up and shoving him into an incredibly dangerous live electrical circuit. And there's this scene before that where and it's the most cliched scene you'd ever have, where Alan talks to his dad and he's like, they just spout out all of these classic movie terms like, yeah, but I've got to go in there. No, I have to do this, says Alan, the child. No, I have to be the one who climbs the telegraph pole. Dad,
none of them suggest, oh, what if one of the adults just did this instead?
No, none of them do that. None of them do that. So it's like there's
because his dad does get a leg injury, but after he's already let Alan do it. Because yeah, it would have made more sense. It's like, oh, I can't do it because I've been shot in the leg 6 times.
Yeah, right. So there's that juxtaposition between them gradually building this idea as the commandos and the Gorgonites become more and more sophisticated and boiled more and more wacky shit throughout the entire course of the film. And then just the kid being like, we talked a little bit about war being infantilized and commodified. Well, Alan's just out there doing stuff because he's got the kid plot armor, which obviously, yeah, but also...
Well,
right.
Sometimes in a Joe Dante film, that doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been great if he just actually murderized the boyfriend, like the end of the second act, just so you thought no one was safe.
Well, he might have done that 10 years earlier. But yeah, I guess just...
But yeah, like we're talking about Alan being a bit weak. That final moment of the film is like, stupid toy, and puts him in the thing.
Yeah, that's
what
the
a
worst
crap line and a terrible delivery.
So I'm just like, just reinsert, 15-year-old LaBouffe in all of these, and then you'd have like the manic actor, building up with the manic events.
And when you've got the scene where his dad's like, "Are you on drugs?" With LaBouffe, that would have been a legit question because he'd have been acting batshit insane in that scene. But he'd have been straight up tweaking.
There's at some point in the film where Alan's dad just goes, because he tells him, oh, the toys did it, and his dad goes, are you trying to upset me? And it's like, it just doesn't sound that believable coming from such a dweeb. But if it was Shia LaBeouf,
yeah.
You know?
So I guess that's my
Well-
end review. Should have had him.
Even if they just got John Connor in, right?
Edward Furlong.
Edward Furlong, yeah, he's got a bit more of like something's not quite right about this kid, about him, than Alan did.
Yeah, but I think maybe that's one of the reasons you like this movie is it does have a similar weird, manic buildup to Transformers. So, yeah, that's where it's. I kind of feel like this movie was done kind of better with that first Transformers.
And it even has the same thing of like, you only really see one of the good guys until right at the end. You best just have Bumblebee, and then at the end, all the other Autobots show up.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it has. I mean, again,
A lot of this film feels like a dry run for Transformers. Yeah.
Yeah. So since I saw Transformers like almost 20 years before seeing this, it's gonna like, yeah. So yeah, again, I wasn't like screw this movie or anything, and I was like, the Joe Dante thing definitely got my eyes on it a little more closely than it would have otherwise. So, but yeah. I'm gonna say the fatal flaw is lead actor. So I don't know. Maybe Rookie Blue's a fantastic show. I don't even know what that is, but that's what the guy's doing now. So
Shout outs to Gregory Smith.
Right, who we just lambasted for 10 minutes.
Oh,
Soz Greg.
we lambasted him when he was 15. I'm sure he's better now.
Yeah. And again, it's not like he was unlikable. He was just kind of there.
Yeah, he just wasn't an action hero leading man. And how many 15-year-olds are? I mean, I was when I was playing Detective Inspector Gregory Zulu.
Another Gregory. Okay.
It's fucking cop videos that we were making when me and Muss were 15.
Did you erase them?
I think so.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
I think I said the line, "Chief, you can shove it up your big fat white ass." And I didn't feel that was okay for me to say anymore.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the Small Soldiers before?
Hope we don't hit an iceberg.
Oh, hope we don't. What a great way to end a film. Just completely.
There was about a 3-year period where I would see Muss almost every day, and he would say that line at least once. So.
That's very true. It's very true. I tell you what.
Have a round of applause for Archer, emissary of the Gorgons. That was another popular one.
Yep. Just that entire scene where they sail off towards parts unknown, towards Gorgon. We just quote each other endlessly. But a little bit before that, when the Globotech CEO lands, right, and they start assessing the damage, and he starts just paying off everybody, and everyone's like, "Oh, this horrible emotional damage. Oh, actually, no, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine." And he says everything. He solves everything with money, as all problems can be solved with. And the guy who designed the commandos, he has a word with them. He's like, how much are we charging for these? They're like 79, 99 or something like that. And he's like, let's add a few zeros to those and start selling them to rebels in South America. Like, just sell the commandos.
Well, I think he was. I don't think he was talking about selling them to the rebels. He says, let's add a few zeros. I know some rebels who will find them very entertaining. I think he's talking about sending them over to South America to kill rebels.
Yeah.
One way or the other. But definitely he's talking about selling them as soldiers.
Well, the proper unscrupulous businessman sells them to both sides.
Yeah. But he'll sell the soldiers to the US military and sell the Gorgonites to the South American But yeah, if they were really going to make a Small Soldier sequel, it would just be like the world is now actually overrun by robot soldiers.
Now,
Archer has to be like hunt them down.
Now you're just getting this the Terminator Salvation. So
yeah, true.
Which is the best one.
How old was Christian Bale in 1998? Because he would have been a manic Alan. You'd have believed he burnt down his school.
Well, he would have been. This is about a couple years for American Psycho, right? So.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely too old.
Yeah, I know. He would have been a little old. 80s Jason Bateman, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There's so many 80s actors where this would have been perfect with.
Yeah, I guess 90s was just a dry period for child actors.
Yeah, it's this guy and Jake Lloyd. Oh yes, okay. I don't know. Do things, I guess.
All
This
right,
would
Must, do you want anyone to find you on the internet?
I don't mind. I'm no good at plugging myself. If that's what we're doing here.
All right, well, if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you can find it on Twitter at MLSFS129. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just search Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. If you want to hear more podcasts from me and Matt, you can go to patreon.com/podcastio. From there, you can find links to our other podcasts, like Matt's Twilight Zone podcast. You can find Matt's Weird Documentaries podcast. You can find my Pokemon podcast. And you can find my Monster Hunter podcast, which also features Muss. Muss also streams on Twitch at MusFX. Wait, is it MusFX or Star Muss?
Nah, it's Star Muss.
At Star Muss on Twitch.
There you go. Very good. Well done.
Yeah. And also, you can just shove an action figure up your ass. I don't care.
Wait, what?
I assume that was your finishing line.
I was just trying to
were
think of things to tell our fans to do, and I ran out. So
you were gonna use one of your wacky Small Soldiers quotes, and you just said no. Shove an action figure up your ass.
I was originally going to end with "I hope we don't hit an iceberg," but I already said it.
Oh,
blown it, mate.
I hope you don't shove an iceberg up your ass.
Did you see that news story about the guy who fucked a snowman